You can socially distance in the sanctuary or go to Zoom and get some Zoom information for the weekly happening email, so that you can be a part of that leadership meeting in case you do not want to be present here in the sanctuary. Small trees, our baby trees, I talk about those every week. We love those trees, and it's lonely back there, and they're looking for a forever home. So if you are interested in it at all, I've been thinking about, I have some roughage area around my property there's other kinds of trees there, but they're big trees, and it's, anybody could plant a tree there. If you have that kind of area around your home, you may want to think about just getting one of those trees so that it'll have a forever home. You don't have to do anything to it. It'll just grow like the other trees do. So think about it in that way if you'd like, and make a donation, small donation to the church. You can call and talk to, didn't see, there's a telephone number, 615-847-7480 for more information. The Lunch Bunch, a club at 11:30 to 1, Zoom every Wednesday. We are currently reading the book and are almost finished with that, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Contact Karen Burr if you'd like more information or see the weekly newsletter. Again, you hear that a lot. Our next book we're about ready for will be This Moment in is Your Miracle. The spiritual tools to transcend fear and experience the power of the present moment. I think we could use some of that right now, don't you? By David Huffmeiser. Also, February 20th, mark it on your calendar. We're having our donation drive-by. Again, we had it in August last year. Finally figured out what month that was that we did that. But we're having it again. So you don't have to do anything other than collect items. We have some organizations that we support here. We support the pantry. It used to be Dodson Chapel. Now it's Hermitage United Methodist. But we're collecting food, non-perishable food. You can, go to the store. And when you go to the store, get a few extra things for that. And then shoes, Soles for Souls. I know I have some extra shoes in the closet that I just don't wear anymore, or some that I just don't like anymore. So you may be in the same boat, and if you have some extra shoes you want to gently use that you want to pass on to someone else, then we're collecting for that. And also our New Leash on Life is our pet effort. And if you would like to know more about what they're needing, go to the newsletter. Every Tuesday, that newsletter comes out with that information of all those items that are needed for our drive-by donations day. And that's, again, February the 20th from 11 to 2. All right? Thank y'all.
I am free. I am unlimited right now.
You are free, you are unlimited. Good morning, everyone. Today's sacred word, of course, comes from the daily word, now. Very appropriately, after our song being Unfree and Unlimited right now. Take a minute and breathe, because we find power in this very moment. There is power in this very moment. Yesterday is the past, and tomorrow is not yet here. There is only this moment, ripe with promise and potential, ready for me to live into it fully. Through my many divine gifts, everything I need to get started is within me. I need not wait for the perfect moment to arrive, because there is no more perfect time than now, and no place more perfect than here. Procrastination has no place in my life. I fritter away my energy when I find reasons not to get started. Losing my zeal and focus are inviting frustration into my life. Today, I claim the power of the present and say, this is the day I begin. This is the day I begin. Now is the time to begin, to serve, to forgive, to create, and to love.
This is the day I begin. This is the day I begin. And if we just breathe those words in together, knowing that all life always breathes together, then we become connected to that one life, to that all life. And we begin that connection right now. And we continue that connection with each breath as we consciously drop that 18 inches from our heads to our heart space. And we continue to breathe together. We find support in this moment, and we relax. Our shoulders drop. Our face relaxes. And in our body, we are still. We imagine angels above, below, and on all sides of us now. And we see those angels pouring love onto us. And as we relax, we simply float in this ocean that is love, in this holy time that is now. And we remember who we are. In this holy time, as love, we remember whose we are and why we're here. Through our breath, we touch this deepest place inside ourselves, and we find all appreciation for the opportunity that we have to be that love. We affirm that we might see now an even clearer experience of ourselves and our lives in love than we ever have before. Through the energy of our surrender, surrendering all our wins, all our losses, our victories, our mistakes, our fears, our hopes, as we lay everything down, all that's left is love. The breath in and out, the beating of our hearts, the love that we are. And we come together to remember this, to realign with this, for the plan and purposes of love to unfold through us as us. And in this knowing, we experience the grace of guidance and the peace that passes understanding. So for a few minutes together in the silence, only love as the peace that passes understanding. All life breathes together. And in this moment, all life sees together the opportunity that is love, the vision that is love, the feeling, the fullness that is only love. And in this grace, we are guided. We are supported. We are seen. We are known for this is our truth. And so it is. Amen.
Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, be acceptable to you today. Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, draw me closer to you each day. Alleluia, alleluia. Spirit, show me your way. Alleluia, alleluia. This is the prayer I pray. Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, be acceptable to you today. Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, draw me closer to you each day. Spirit, show me your way. Alleluia, alleluia. This is the prayer I pray. This is the prayer I pray.
Beautiful. Thank you. Judy Blackwelder. Good morning, Judy. Maybe she's watching. We send your love. We send our love to Judy and Denise, of course, always. Thank you for the beautiful music. Like a balm. Just washes over me and all of us. So good morning. It's great to see everybody. How many of you all did set New Year's resolutions this year? Okay. Today's January the 31st. How many of you are still in alignment with those resolutions? This is an uncommon group. But congratulations on that. I know that for most people, today being the last day of the first calendar month, those resolutions are gone, are no more. And I realized that same thing was true about me. So what I resolved several years ago was to not adopt New Year's resolutions ever again, but only one resolution for the rest of my path, and that is to remember that I am love and to constantly realign with what would love do now, with my finances, with my health, with my thoughts, with my life. What would love do now? And to always realign. And the reality is, depends on the day, right? That's who we are. We are a depends on the day kind of people. But if we have that vision and that ideal, then we always have the possibility of remaining awake to it. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because we realize as a collective how important this time of our lives is. And when I say our generation, I speak about everyone alive on planet Earth who is an adult now. That generation. The generation that is cosmically willing to see themselves as the energy that they are, to take full responsibility for living in alignment with the truth that brings. Meaning, if I am energy, then what does that mean is mine for me to do? Our generation is getting it right. Is getting it right. Here we are to prove that. That's something to not necessarily be proud of, but to have peace with, inside of. It's not necessarily that it's right with a lowercase r, meaning right in the terms of the world and right and wrong and good and bad, but right with an uppercase, with a capital R. Right in accordance with what is eternally true about ourselves. The truth that we are love. And the truth that many times we've been living out, which is so interesting, is that God has more faith in us than we have in ourselves. God likes us more than we like ourselves. Right? Thank God. And many times, God loves us more than we love ourselves. How do we know that? Because if we were a people who saw ourselves, liked ourselves, and loved ourselves the way that God does, what would we do? We would let ourselves have our dreams. That's exactly what we would do. And we would let ourselves live out those dreams, and with that energy that would be generated as a result of living in alignment with our truth, we would make our best contributions. Our highest contributions. A Course in Miracles teaches us that we are all encoded to make the contribution that only we can make as the result of allowing ourselves to live in a way that only we can live. But we have to be willing first to love ourselves. That's the main caveat. When we do, and yes, I keep going back to this because this is my mantra. This is it for me. Reminding myself every day, your self-perception will determine your behavior. If you see yourself as love, what will you allow yourself to do? Who will you allow yourself to be? What will you allow yourself to say, and to whom? Where will you allow yourself to go? Our self-perception, though, is often limited by certain interpretations of great teachings. Certain interpretations of great teachings, such as we must be saved by grace. Saved by grace. Saved from what? Hell. Right? Hell. And we all grew up with that. We all grew up with that, especially if we grew up in the South. What we don't ever necessarily learn, unless we somehow find ourselves into a teaching like unity or religious science or love, is that it's the hell of our erroneous perception that we are needing to be saved from. Hell not in a place, not as in a place we go, but a state that we create. And anyone who's lived long enough to have lived through hell knows exactly what I'm talking about. And when I'm talking about living through hell, I mean the hell of self-judgment, the hell of self-betrayal, the hell of comparison, the hell of guilt. All of these are optional, by the way. All optional. And yet, whether we will create and recreate hell for ourselves on a daily basis is all about this. We would only create hell for ourselves if we somehow believe that that is what we deserve. If we somehow were not clear enough about our true nature. Our preoccupation with what we think we've gotten wrong is what keeps us from making those contributions that I was talking about that could be making life a more lovely experience for everyone now. But our preoccupation with what we think we've done wrong is different from God's perception of what we think we've gotten wrong. Why? Because God knows and perceives the mistakes as righteous use of life. Righteous use of life. We're here, we're learning. We experiment, we make mistakes, we fall down, we get back up. What are the instances in our lives that have made us more compassionate, made us more humble, made us more willing? It's the times that we miss the mark. But it's what we do with those memories of those times. I had a great conversation this week with a coaching client, and her focus in this conversation was, I have to get it right this time. I've made so many mistakes in the past. Nothing short of a grand slam is acceptable. Nothing short of a grand slam is appropriate. I simply have to get it right this time. And I thought, what kind of odds do you have, do you think, in getting it right when you're stepping up to the plate deciding that it can only be one way to be good? It has to go a certain way in order to happen well. Your commitment is about continuing. Your commitment is about love for yourself so that you're enabling yourself to have this experience called life in all its fullness, which means, yes, mistakes. Righteous use of life. Why is it when we step up, when we contemplate stepping up and stepping out and stepping into what has been beckoning us to itself for years. Why is it that we feel so inadequate? Because we've been practicing stalling. We've been practicing hesitating. We've been practicing focusing on the aspects of ourselves that we feel like aren't ready to be seen. Focusing on the mistakes. Most of the time, we either move forward scared to death or we don't move forward at all. As a matter of fact, Jan Levan Sant said, if your vision doesn't make you pee down your leg just a little bit, then it's not big enough. A little more on that in a minute. But first, I'll tell you a story about someone that this congregation knows well, and that's Brandy Austin. You all remember Brandy Austin? So one thing you all may not know is that Brandy and I grew up together in southwestern Virginia. I'm 4 years older than she is, and we met when I was about 14 and she was about 11, something like that. And so Brandy, we stayed in touch through all those years, and I came here to go to college and went to Belmont, and 4 years later, Brandy came to Belmont and got her theater degree. What's different is, as soon as Brandy graduated from Belmont, she moved to Chicago to get her master's at DePaul. Scared the Jesus out of me, the thought of living in Chicago. And so I went to visit her there, and she picked me up at the airport, and then we got on a train, and we took a train to where her car was parked, and then we drove from where her car was parked to where her apartment was. And it was like all of this, what seemed to me like mayhem. You know, Nashville's the biggest place I've ever been, and y'all, that was 1998, 1999, so, you know, it was pretty small then. Hillsborough Road was a big deal, right? So I'm in Chicago, and we're in her car, and, you know, people going everywhere, and traffic lights, and do you know what a Louisville left is? And I'm like, I know. What the hell's a Louisville left? It basically means that when the light turns red, you go left in front of the oncoming traffic really fast, or else you'll never get across. So I'm scared to death. And, you know, I'm older than she is, 4 years older, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at all this that's happening, and I said, aren't you scared? And she turned and she looked at me. I will never forget this. She goes, hell yes, I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway. And she hits the gas. Hell yes, I'm scared. But it's important that I'm scared. Because if I never let myself get to that point, then I'll never grow. I'll never be able to live out of my comfort zone. I'll never be able to live outside of what I've always known. And I'll never be able to feel outside of what I've always felt. Whew. Such an important lesson that my little sister taught me. So something else I've learned is that in order to be inspiring, we have to stay inspired. We have to stay inspired. We have to do what we know is ours to do to keep ourselves inspired. And so for the most part, I take that very, very seriously. And I follow a lot of different teachers and a lot of different teachings. And one teacher who's always been very impactful on me is a religious science Center for Spiritual Living minister out of Seattle named Kathy Ann Lewis. I don't know if you all have ever heard any of Kathy Ann's teachings, but in my opinion, she's one of the most underrated humans around. She's just brilliant, and she's funny, and she's engaging. And so every now and then I'll tune into what Kathy Ann is talking about, and recently I heard a talk that she gave about why we play small, and I loved what she had to say. So I'm sharing it with you all today because I think it's really important and relevant to where we are. If we want to remain awake, it's crucial that we know what compels us and supports us in falling asleep, in playing small, in getting scared, so that we can be aware. So that we can be aware. We remember that Jesus and the disciples in the boat, when the storm came, and the disciples said, "Father, please save us," Jesus didn't say, "O ye of little spiritual power." He said, "O ye of little faith." Right? So it's a reminder to us. It's how we see ourselves. We have the power. Do we have faith in our ability to access the power? Are we practicing our ability to access the power? Or are we doing something else? So there was 4 things that Kathy Ann Lewis brought up about how we fall into a place of playing small and not seeing ourselves as the love we are. And the first one is we discount what our heart desires. We don't name our good unless we feel like it's a safe good. But the reality is, until we are willing to commit to that big, hairy, audacious idea, we don't ever really allow ourselves the opportunity to see what God can do. We always do what we can do of ourselves. Well, if you can do it of yourself, and you know you can, and this is an achievable goal, then do it. But if you want to play full out, what's the big goal? What's the goal that makes you pee down your leg a little bit? Who would you have to become to step into that? What would it take? It would take a full reliance on God. It would take a full willingness to become the person that can live into that reality. We don't name what we really want. We name what we think we should want. And yet our fulfillment, our unique fulfillment and expansion and contribution is coded in what we truly want. What we truly want, the big thing that we're afraid we might not deserve or that we're afraid might not be achievable. But that's where it is. I'm looking in the mirror. Trust me. I'm hearing the words as they're coming out of my mouth, Chris Tucker. Thank you, Crystal. We contemplate how we might be offensive to others if we had what we wanted. Have you ever thought about that? If I make more money than my dad made, do I want him to know that? Or am I afraid of how that might make him feel? My sister also taught me a great lesson, and that is you'd care a lot less about what other people think of you if you realized how seldom they actually do. Oh, really? Yes. You know, I went through the hell of trying to anticipate every negative thing that anybody would ever think about me before I came out of the closet. Right? So I experienced it all, and then I came out, and nobody cared. Jesus. But I walked through all of it because I anticipated all of it. I did make myself sick. Not about. I did. It was horrible. That's why I say when you've lived through hell, you know what I'm talking about. You've been through it. You felt it. And you know that you created it. The whole time, it was all on me. And my sister said to me 100 times, "Nobody cares, Victor. Nobody cares." It's very freeing and very true. But our mortal minds specialize in limits, in limitation, in lack, in judgment, all of those ego things. That's what our minds do. So until we are practicing surrendering what's of our own mortal minds, then we're not able to practice and get in alignment with that divinity within ourselves that specializes in expansion and possibility and love and fullness and growth. Yes, we must practice that. But first, We have to be willing to entertain the possibility that it's there, that it's true, that we are love. We must remain awake. The third thing we do that keeps us playing small is we play not to lose. We won't put ourselves in any situations where the stakes are high. We stay safe. I can do this. I know this. I can do it in my sleep. That's what I'm doing. Staying right here. But think about kids. If we weren't willing to learn and grow, think about where we would still be. We'd be gigantic beings in playpens with diapers on, trying to convince the person, whoever was willing to learn, that we needed our diaper changed or we needed fed, without being able to talk. If we were never willing. But just like you were talking about trees before, Sherry, just like the tree has everything it needs, all you need to do is plant it. We're the same way, and we get in our own way of simply growing and blooming and expanding because we're playing not to lose. I know some people that won't play certain games. No names called. Certain people won't go to Topgolf because they can't play golf. Well, that's not what it's about. It's not whether or not you can play golf. It's whether or not you're willing to go have an experience, whether or not you're willing to go have fun with your friends, regardless of how well you perform. You know? Have you ever heard somebody singing in front of a room and they were really bad, but they really loved it? It's one of the best things you can ever witness. It's important. People need to have the space to do things they're not good at so that they can have the space to grow, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to have more life. Last thing, we let our past define us. Just like that conversation I was talking about with my coaching client. She's so focused on what she feels like she didn't get right that if she's not really careful, she's just going to recreate it again because she's not past it. She's not past it. She's still connected to the shame that she feels about what she feels like she didn't do well. Failure of itself really doesn't exist. We realize that, right? Failure is just a concept that we kick around. Failure is a concept that enables us to continue to experience shame, to continue practicing stalling, right? That failure energy. But the truth is that if failure is anything, it's those points in our lives where we created shame when we could have created wisdom. That's when we fail. Because no matter what we walk through, we always have the opportunity to take it and create wisdom with it, to propel ourselves further, to justify us getting up and going out again and trying again, instead of creating the shame that keeps us on the bench, withheld. So we call it Earth School. But are we really letting ourselves participate in class? Or are we sleeping in class, right? This time it's about staying awake, remaining awake, no matter when it gets tedious, no matter when we start to doubt ourselves. We're going to stay awake in class. We're going to have another cup of coffee if we need to. Because what would love do? Love would pay attention. Right? Love would let us have our dreams. Love would let us make our contributions. Love would let us shine. We're going to close today with a prayer. I invite you to bow your head, close your eyes, whatever feels right to you. Father, Mother, God within, forgive my loves and my hates. Forgive my losses and my wins. Help me now to simply let it all go, such that my definitions of myself, my limitations of myself, can simply dissolve into you until all that's left is you, me as you, completely supported, fully inspired, clear as love. No explanation. Pure awareness. And as we allow this awareness, we allow our experience of the truth. We're no longer a song about the truth. We are the truth. We are set up for success, for fulfillment and great contribution. I am a success because God succeeds through me now. God succeeds as me now. God succeeds for me now. And everything is so, for we allow it to be so. And in the energy of this truth, we say together, for this day, that so it is. Namaste.
Thank you, Vic. And out of that success comes prosperity.
Yes.
So let's take just a moment to think about all the prosperity that we have in our lives and bless our tithes, donations, and love offerings. Say it together. I am open to receiving floods of financial abundance with ease so that I may be able to give back even more to the world around me. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God, for opening our hearts and for all we feel. We carry you with us as we leave this place, knowing a love that's so real. Here in this moment, we stand in our truth. We welcome the peace that it brings. God, as you guide us, renew and remind us that you are the reason we see. God, as you guide us, renew and remind us that you are the reason we see.
Please join us in a prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
We are love, joy, and